my fossil paws, welcome back to another video where today I am going to be doing an updated custom Beanie Boo collection. The last time I did a custom Beanie Boo collection, I believe was in either 2021 or 2022, so I figured it was time to update it. Also, it's been brought to my attention that we're kind of in a new generation of bootubers right now, and unfortunately a lot of the bootubers that were around when I was are now gone and no longer making content, so it's kind of a new audience entirely. So I figured either way I should update it because it's been a couple years since my last one, and I have a bunch of new people watching my channel who maybe might not have seen my previous ones or may not know who I am, so either way, I just figured it was time to update my custom Beanie Boo collection. Now, I'm just gonna give a brief backstory of me and my channel in case you are new and are unfamiliar with me and my content. So, my name is Kyla, and I make custom Beanie Boos. I used to be It's Fossa, and then I changed it to solely focus on customs because I stopped collecting Beanie Boos, and now I just customize and sell them. My Etsy will be linked in the description in case you are interested in seeing the ones I have available for purchase. I'm going to be giving a brief description / backstory to those that require it, but not every single one of my customs has a backstory, and even if they did, I wouldn't have time to give you a detailed backstory of each of them anyway, so I'm just going to give a description or a backstory for the most important ones, and then the others is just going to be a full 360 view of them and their name and what they are. The first custom that I have is Mona Lisa, and she is a monarch butterfly mixed with a fox. Her design is really simple. That's what I was going for. Usually my customs are really elaborate, but I wanted to tone it down and go more simple for her design. I used wings from a monarch butterfly squishmallow, false eyelashes, a earring as a nose piercing because I thought she needed a little bit of bling, a piece of ribbon for her necklace, and a simple head flower. I chose the name Mona Lisa because I thought it was artistic, and I don't know, monarch butterflies kind of represent that to me. They're like a very artistic, creative creature, it seems, you know? Like, that's kind of the vibe they give off. Also, Mona Lisa kind of sounded like monarch to me, and I am a sucker for alliterated names and titles, so that is Mona Lisa the monarch butterfly. And even though she is simple comparatively to the ones you're going to see, she's honestly one of my personal favorites just because I love real-life monarch butterflies. Next up, we have one of my personal favorites of my custom collection. This is the Queen of Hearts, and her design is inspired by the show The Masked Singer. The Masked Singer is a show where celebrities go on and perform, and their voice is disguised, and they are disguised in costume, and you try to guess who they are. And I believe it was season 6, if my memory serves correctly. It might have been 7, but I'm pretty confident in the fact that it was 6. Spoiler alert, if you do watch the show, just skip past a little so you don't spoil who wins. But the Queen of Hearts, aka the singer Jewel, was the winner of season 6 of The Masked Singer, and she was my personal favorite contestant, so much so that I wanted to do a custom inspired by her design, and I took it very literally. As you can tell, I really leaned into the theme that it was Jewel, but it's actually kind of ironic because I didn't know that it was Jewel at the time, obviously, because she hadn't been unmasked yet. I just went like this to mimic or mirror her geometric design of her costume. I may put a picture up later in editing, I may not. If not, you can just look up Masked Singer Queen of Hearts and you'll know what I'm talking about. But yeah, I was inspired by her geometric design, and then I later realized that it totally was a hint towards her name because she's Jewel. So anyway, she was really simple and fun to make, and I think I'm just extremely biased to her because of The Masked Singer and the fact that it was modeled after it. Tried a new technique that I had never done before where I put beads in the ears, and I just really love that she looks like this. Next, we have another personal favorite of mine, Rickson. He is a cottagecore / fairycore bear, and he's meant to look like he's growing out of the ground and like he's a tree or made out of dirt or something fantastical like that. I haven't decided on like one set thing of what he is, but he's just in general made out of plant.
He is plant.
Because he is inspired by Fred. Fred is a character that the YouTuber Mariah Elizabeth created. I've been a fan of the YouTuber Mariah Elizabeth ever since 2017, so I was just really inspired by her and this design, and Fred is one of my favorite characters of hers, so much like with The Masked Singer, I made a custom based off of him. I decided to go with the title Rickson instead of Fred for him because it just felt more fitting and more elaborate. He's also one of the most elaborate customs that I have. I tried out something new with him. If you're curious, he used to be Nicholas the bear, and he had a Santa hat that I removed, and instead I replaced it with brown felt to look like dirt, and then stuck leaves in there to make it look like they're growing out of his head as if he were a potted plant, because that's what the original design is like. So yeah, it's a much more elaborate, fantasized version of the design, but overall, he's one of my favorites, and I love him so much. This is another inspired design of mine. Not every single one of my customs is inspired by a real-life thing, but this one also is, and those always turn out to be my favorites. She is, once again, one of my most elaborate customs, and she is the first custom that I ever put on a base. Before her, all of my customs were just as is, standing still by themselves, but she is where I started doing bases on my customs, and I really like it because I think it makes them feel more like professional and official and like a finished product. It really gives off a different feel, which I like. She's probably the custom that has taken me the longest out of any custom I've ever done. After 12 hours with her, I stopped counting, and that was just on her tail. It took me over 12 hours on just her tail, because this was the first time that I'd ever formed a mermaid tail completely from scratch, like hand sewn and hand stuffed, which I'd never done before. I'd used Barbie tails previously before making her, so this was the first ever hand sewn, hand stitched, hand stuffed tail, and hand framed, as you can see in the back, with wire, so completely from scratch, so I'm really proud of how she turned out. She's inspired by Dua Lipa's character from the Barbie movie, because I'm a personal fan of the singer Dua Lipa, and I love the Barbie movie. Honestly, Dua Lipa's the whole reason why I watched the Barbie movie, so you know that I had to make a design inspired by her. I never officially named this custom. I just refer to her as Dua because that's who she's modeled after, and I don't think that Dua's character in the movie actually has a name anyway. This is actually a real live starfish. Well, no longer live, but was once a real starfish. This is around the time when I started doing falsies on my customs as well. I don't do them on all my customs, but if I want to make them look more eccentric, I add them. Also created this staff myself, a Christmas ornament that I filled with glitter, then I used a ring and I glued it to a screw. This base came from an old dragon figurine that I had that unfortunately broke, so then I figured I'd use it for something, and it came out handy. It's supposed to be like she's resting on the rocks, and those are supposed to be the waves. These are not actually ears, these are wings from an owl. That's a tip that I have, is use wings as ears and vice versa. Trust me, it's so convincing you wouldn't even be able to tell, and you can come up with so many more designs that way if you actually think outside of the box and use things outside of what they're intended for. I have to hold her horizontally instead of vertically because she's too long for the frame, but this is Riptide, and she is the first ever custom that I gave a tail to. Her tail is partially handmade from scratch and partially found objects. The base of her tail I didn't make myself, the base is just a Barbie tail, and then I glued the sequins to it to make it look like that, so it's only partially made from scratch, whereas the other one I completely made from scratch. So yeah, since she was the first time that I ever gave a custom a tail, I was nervous and didn't want to mess it up and wasn't confident in my abilities to make the tail from scratch, so I went safe with the safe option and just did a Barbie tail. She was my favorite for a long time because at the time that I made her, she was the most elaborate I had done, but since making her, I've learned a lot more and enhanced my skill, so she's not my favorite anymore. Her tail is actually flip sequin, but I'm not gonna flip it because I don't feel like flipping it all back later. So, the stuff on her face is from a brand of dolls called My Life As Dolls. I got them at Walmart a while ago. Like, I hoard stuff for years until they're useful. These were just old doll accessories that I glued to her face. This is Trinket and Gearon, two of my many steampunk themed customs. I went through a huge phase with steampunk. I was obsessed with it, and it was all I wanted to make. Real authentic pocket watch, by the way. Most of the stuff for Trinket I got off of Etsy. I gave him a prosthetic limb because I think amputees are really cool people and are really strong. So I just really wanted to reflect that in one of my designs, and I just thought the idea of him being made of machinery is like so cool. His leg isn't actually a leg, it's a telescope that I glued so that it looks like it's like an iron leg, and then I got a separate pressure monitor thing so that it looks like it's monitoring the pressure of how much steam his leg is like exuding. I gave him a mohawk because this was meant to be like a post-apocalyptic steampunk is what I was going for with him, so very much like found objects survival kind of thing. Gearon was the first steampunk custom that I ever made, and so I started experimenting and complicating my designs further on after that, but I don't know, I just adore the simplicity of him. He'll just always have a special place in my heart as like my first ever steampunk custom, and for once he actually came out exactly how I wanted him to. Most of the time my customs hadn't up to that point, so the fact that he just came out exactly how I wanted him to really made me happy. And I spray painted his monocle to make it look oxidized, like it's been worn for a while. Those were all the customs that I'm going to show you today. I am unfortunately going to have to split this up into two parts just because I have very low storage on my device. So I will see you in part 2. I apologize that I have to keep splitting up my videos into 2 parts. I hope that you enjoyed my custom collection. I enjoyed showing them to you. If you have any questions about any of the materials I use or my methods for customization, you can check out the playlist that I have. It's in all my old videos. You'll probably find some old customization related videos in that playlist, or you can just simply ask me in the comments and I'll do my best to explain my process and materials and give advice and tips and stuff for customization. But yeah, if you ever have any questions about what materials I use or methods or how you should start customizing or anything like that, feel free to ask me in the comments and I'll do my best to explain. See you later in this video. I don't know when part 2 is going to go up. It may be a while from now. It may be 2 seconds from now when you're seeing this. It just depends on when I have motivation and time to film this. There will be more customs in part 2, so stay tuned. But for now, that's all I'm going to show you, and another plug for my Etsy. If you're interested in purchasing any customs, the link will be in the description. I'm currently working on a new set that should release sometime before or during summer, so. Wah! Oh no!